Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet. In the video today, the top 10 crimes that were solved by social media. Police and detectives are bogged down with so many crimes on a daily basis, it's impossible to solve every case. Fortunately though, there are plenty of people online with loads of time on their hands. Social media can give key evidence in a case that would have been much more difficult to find in the past. Amateur web sleuths have come together to solve the following 10 crimes. Number 10. The Case of Grateful Doe. In 1995, a young man was found in a car crash in Southern Virginia. His body was damaged beyond recognition, and he did not have any identification except for 2 Grateful Dead concert ticket stubs in his pocket. The authorities called him Grateful Doe. Years later, a computer-generated image of his face was created using his skull. Members of the online community, websleuths.com, circulated his image all over the internet, searching for clues about who he actually was. The face ended up being posted to Facebook. Family members of 19-year-old Jason Callahan recognized him immediately and sent in DNA samples to confirm his identity. Jason told his mother that he was on his way to a Grateful Dead concert, but never said the location. He was originally from South Carolina and went on a long road trip to get to the concert. His mother simply had no idea in which jurisdiction she should file the missing persons report. According to his half-sister, the family assumed he had cut ties with his family in order to start his own life. They had no idea he was actually missing or dead. Number 9. Twitter solves a hate crime. In 2014, a group of friends ran into 2 gay men in Center City, Philadelphia. They asked if they were a couple, and when they said yes, the group beat and robbed them. One of the victims was so badly hurt that he had to go to the hospital and get his mouth wired shut. The group was captured on a security camera earlier that night, but police had trouble identifying the attackers. They asked for anyone with information to come forward in order to help them solve the hate crime. A Twitter user by the name of FanSince09 had around 5,000 followers at the time. He normally wrote funny posts about sports in Philadelphia. He decided to tweet a link to the surveillance video asking for everyone's help. Through small clues in the video, people of the internet were able to find a group photograph, which led to identifying a restaurant where the attackers had eaten that night. Then they looked at Facebook's check-in feature to see who was there the night of the crime. It took them only 2 hours to find the identities of the criminals. Number 8. The murder of Abraham Shakespeare. An online community called Web Sleuths is exactly what it sounds like. They are a group of thousands of amateur detectives spending their spare time poring over evidence of cold cases in the attempt to solve a murder or a missing persons case. In 2006, a man named Abraham Shakespeare won millions of dollars in the lottery. He hired a woman named Dee Moore to be his financial advisor. In 2009, she killed Shakespeare so that she could continue having control over his money, and then she buried his body under concrete. He was reported missing, and the police did suspect her, but they couldn't find enough evidence for a conviction. Since the police's hands were tied, the Web Sleuths community began taking action, searching for any additional evidence that may lead to finding Shakespeare's killer. Dee Moore was so threatened by this, she actually created her own account to try throwing anyone off who found evidence against her. Users were able to trace Moore's IP address back to her office. That information was then passed on to law enforcement, and it added to the stack of evidence piling up against her. She was eventually found guilty of murder. Number 7. The Unidentified Victims. Every year, thousands of people go missing, and bodies of Jane and John Does continue to go without identities. Because of this, many families never get closure after a crime has been committed. One of these sub-forums of Web Sleuths is a page called The Unidentified. Members of this forum spend hours going through yearbooks, Facebook pages, and public records in order to match the forensic drawings of missing people with the photographs. There have been dozens of successful matches, including a woman named Linda Jane Hart who went missing in 1988. Web Sleuth moderator and forensic artist Carl Koppelman matched her records in 2011. Several other web communities have opened up to identifying missing people, including the Doe Network and Reddit's Bureau of Investigation. Through the power of crowdsourcing, these websites have solved over 1,000 different cases. Number 6. Confession Bear. Reddit obviously takes their crime solving very seriously, so when a user says they committed murder, clearly they're going to want to solve the crime. A user called Naruto posted a Confession Bear meme saying, "My sister had an abusive meth addict boyfriend. I killed him with his own drugs while he was unconscious. They ruled it as an overdose." When users questioned him further, he replied that there was some truth behind it. Redditors immediately got to work figuring out the real identity of Naruto. If he truly was connected to a murder, they planned to report him to the police. In the end, he was a 24-year-old 34-year-old man who smokes weed, plays World of Warcraft, and practices martial arts. After one Reddit user contacted his sister, she told him that she and her brother had moved to entirely different countries and that she never dated a meth addict. Turns out, Naruto just watches way too much Breaking Bad. While this was a false confession, it's still proof of how easy it would have been for the internet to find a murderer who was stupid enough to make a meme about it. Number 5. Boots the Kitten. Back when the smartphone app Vine still existed, a teenager uploaded a video where he kicked a ginger kitten off a back porch. Even though he deleted the video, it was spread across Reddit and 4chan in an attempt to find his identity. Eventually, they figured out that he was a 17-year-old named Walter Easley, and they reported the incident to the police. Peter posted his personal information online, and he began to receive death threats. By the way, in case you were worried, the kitten was totally fine, but that didn't stop Animal Protective Services from removing all of the pets out of the Easley home while the case was under investigation. This was especially troubling for Easley's mother, whose beloved pets had been taken away for her son's foolish actions. Walter Easley pled guilty to animal cruelty in court, saying that he never meant to cause harm to the kitten and that it was just all a bad joke. Number 4. The Jane Doe of Akron. A 22-year-old woman named Christina Skates was looking in the Highlands Park cemetery records for one of her ancestors. She noticed a grave from 1975 that had no name. It simply said, "Unknown white female bones." Skates felt compelled to search for the identity of this young woman. She began to search at her local library and found the newspaper clipping about the murder of this unidentified woman who had been shot in the head. She called as many local detectives as she could until one finally sent her the digital cold case file. Skates uploaded the file to the Reddit Bureau of Investigation under the username Calmes. At the same time, it was also posted on the websleuths.com website. Carl Koppelman, the forensic artist we mentioned earlier in the list, was able to recreate a digital version of the woman's face from the crime scene photographs. Koppelman's unique skills in facial recreation have earned him respect in the criminal investigation community. Detectives and medical examiners from all over the country reach out to him for help whenever they find unidentified bones. Koppelman was speaking to a contact in Ohio where the unknown female bones were discovered. It turns out that a clerical error had prevented some of the older cases from being included in the NamUs Missing Persons database. Once it was updated, Koppelman was able to find Linda Pagano, and she looked exactly like his drawings. After 43 years, her family was finally able to reunite with her remains. These actions may also be one step closer to solving her murder. Number 3. Tammy Jo Alexander. In 1979, the body of an unidentified 16-year-old girl was found in a cornfield in New York. For 36 years, no one knew her true identity was Tammy Jo Alexander. The strangest part was that Tammy is originally from Florida. At the time, New York police would have never thought to search in Florida for a missing girl, and the case went cold for years. The internet came to the rescue again here. Websleuths.com began to post the details of the unidentified body that was found in New York. Meanwhile, a former classmate of Tammy Jo Alexander was looking to reconnect with her online. She learned from relatives on Facebook that Tammy had disappeared and felt shocked that she hadn't noticed Tammy's name triggering a missing persons database on Google. That's because the case from the 1970s had never been put on the internet. The friend took it upon herself to make sure that the information about Tammy's disappearance made it onto the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. Web sleuths connected the dots in 2015. Now the next step is to find Tammy's killer. Number 2. Social media saves the day. In 2012, high schoolers from Steubenville, Ohio were having an end-of-summer party in a large empty field. As you might imagine, there were kegs and flasks of whatever these underage kids managed to find. The party took a really dark turn when one of the young girls got so drunk that she passed out. Multiple football players began to sexually assault her over and over for several hours. Some of the boys even urinated on her. One student posted a picture of the back of 2 football players dragging the girl by her wrists on Instagram, including rape as a hashtag. Shockingly, no one from the party came forward to confirm their identities. The girl also did not go to their high school, so no one from the party knew who she was. A crime blogger reposted the photos from Instagram as well as other evidence that had made its way onto social media. He then accused the local police of showing favoritism to the local football stars. This was actually true because many members of law enforcement requested to distance themselves from the case due to their loyalty to the local football community. Through this blog and doing some digging of their own, the victim and her parents found an overwhelming amount of evidence about her rape on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. They gathered the evidence on a flash drive and handed it to the Steubenville Police Department. A week later, Trent Mays and Malik Richmond were arrested for rape. Without social media, the victim would have never gotten justice in a small town caught up in football hero worship. Number 1. Facebook solves child murder. On Halloween night of 1968, a 4-year-old girl named Carolee Ashby was the victim of a hit-and-run accident by a drunk driver in upstate New York. For decades, police could not find out the identity of the driver. After retiring, a former police officer by the name of Lieutenant Russ Johnson posted the story about Carolee Ashby on Facebook, expressing that he still regretted never finding her killer. The story was shared, and it reached a woman who was living in Florida. The Florida woman had been friends with a woman from New York who told her the story of being in the passenger seat of a vehicle driven by a man named Douglas Pankhurst, who was just 17 years old at the time. He hit a small child on Halloween night. The girl carried the guilt with her all of her life, but never went to the police to turn Parkhurst in. After getting the tip, the police questioned him, and he admitted to the crime. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations had passed, so he could not be arrested for the death of Carolee Ashby. So I really hope you found that video interesting, and don't forget that here on TopTenz we put out brand new videos just like this every day of the week. So hit that subscribe button below if you want to be informed about those. If you like this, you'll like those. Also over there on the right, check out some videos from our archives, and as always, thank you for watching.